All right, so the Toronto Maple Leafs and Ottawa Senators have finally consummated a deal that was been worked around for the past week, 2 weeks, who knows, that surrounds Nikita Zaitsev and his $4.5 million over the next 5 years. Now it's kind of bloomed up to 6 players and a draft pick that are involved in this deal between the two teams. Let's start with what's going to Ottawa. Right shot defenseman Nikita Zaitsev. Left wing, right winger Connor Brown, and minor league center left wing Michael Carcone. To the Toronto Maple Leafs, right shot defenseman Cody Ceci, left shot defenseman Ben Harpur, and minor league centerman Aaron Luchuk, and a 2020 third round pick. I gotta say, this is a great deal for both teams. Ottawa gets a little closer to the cap floor. Toronto gets rid of 5 years of $4.5 million, and I believe it was just over $2 million for one more year left on Connor Brown. So they really free up some more space in their cap, which was super important to them. And yeah, I mean, the best player out of this deal is Connor Brown that Ottawa's getting, who can play up and down the lineup, and we'll get more into him in a second. So I think that's the best player out of all of these. But in terms of cap space, yeah, Toronto definitely. Ottawa bails out Toronto with another hefty defensive playing contract. The previous one being, of course, years ago with Dion Phaneuf. Hilarious! Okay, so let's start off with Cody Ceci. He's been getting a lot of flack in Ottawa over the years. That's where he's played all his career so far. He's kind of bounced around a little bit, but in the 74 games last season, he had 7 goals, 26 points, and was a minus 22. Now, his biggest point output total was 26 points back in 2015-16, and he was a plus 9 that year. But the past 3 seasons, last season was 19 points, the season before that was 17 points, and he's bounced between minus 11 and minus 27 the past few seasons. I don't see this guy making the Leafs lineup. I mean, maybe he just needs a change of scenery, but it sounds like either one of two things will happen here with Cody Ceci. They're either going to try and flip him, which I think is their first choice, maybe a draft pick, at the very most optimistic, maybe a 4th, maybe more like a 5th or a 6th that they'll get for him. The other thing is they try and sign him for a base salary and see how he does in training camp, like a 1 year, 700 grand, show me kind of deal. He's also arbitration eligible. So if he decides to go that route and the Leafs don't like what the arbitrator says, they'll just walk from it, and that'll be the end of it. Or, yeah, he gets the base salary. Again, they see what happens at training camp, and maybe they keep him for a year, see how he does. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to stick around. Now, the next player Leafs get is left shot defenseman Ben Harpur, who also will most likely not make this team. Now, he signed for 1 more year at $725,000. He's a big boy, 24 years old, 6'6", 222 pounds. He's from Hamilton, Ontario, and he has bounced back and forth between the NHL and the AHL. In 51 games in the NHL last season, he had 1 goal and 5 points and was a minus 13. And that was his highest output in terms of points in the NHL. He's been a minus player for the past, almost all his career, I want to say. Last season he was minus 13. He was a minus 7 in the AHL, minus 21 in 2017-18 with the Ottawa Senators, and so on and so forth. I don't see this guy making the team. I see the Leafs burying him in the minors for sure. Let's look at the next player, a minor leaguer, Aaron Luchuk. Now he's a 5'10", 180-pound center who's 22 years old from Kingston, Ontario. Don Cherry might like this kid. And he's bounced. Last season he split between the ECHL and the AHL. He spent 32 games in the ECHL with 22 points and a +1. He spent 27 games in the AHL with 9 points and a +1. He might be a bit of a reclamation project. We'll see what he can do in the Marlies, for 1 year, and then just go from there. And then that's it. And then Toronto gets a third-round pick. But look at their cap space now. They now have just over $11.4 million in cap, plus Nathan Horton's LTIR hit, which is $5.3 million. You add that together, that's just under $17 million. That's a pretty good job on Kyle Dubas's part. And they managed to squeeze, again, an extra round draft pick after giving up their first next season in that Patrick Marleau deal to the Hurricanes. So, yeah. Now, let's talk about the Ottawa Senators. Now, in terms of their cap, they're now at just over $27 million in projected cap space. How far away are they away from the floor? Just under $6 million away from the cap floor right now. So let's talk about Nikita Zaitsev, the right shot defenseman who's going the other way. 6'2", 193 pounds. He's 27 years old. His first season with the Leafs, he was known as an offensive defenseman, and his first season, point-wise, he did pretty decently. 4 goals, 32 assists, 36 points, but he was a -22. The Leafs then tried to change him into more of a defensive defenseman because that's what they desperately needed. And yeah, it had mixed results, really. In 2017-18, he had 13 points and was a +8. And then last season, in 81 games, he had 14 points and was a +2. And the playoffs, just against the Bruins this past season in 7 games, he actually played really well. His play improved, but it was alongside Jake Muzzin, who's a great two-way defender, underrated guy. Anyways, he was a -3 with no points in the playoffs. But the Leafs' former assistant coach who was in charge of the penalty kill and the defense, DJ Smith, is now, of course, the head coach of the Ottawa Senators. I think he was a big part in this deal in convincing Dorian to bring Zaitsev over. He thinks he can do something with him. And, I think he should be, at least, he eats up over 20, 21 minutes a night. So I think he'll do well with him. Maybe they set him up with a bit more of a defensive guy on the left side. That'll be for more of the benefit of the team. We'll see what happens there. Now, the big piece I think that's going across, of course, not to mention Zaitsev's 5-year, $4 million cap hit, which is wow. But hey, I mean, if you're Eugene Melnyk and you just need to hit the cap floor, why not, right? Then there's Connor Brown, who I think is the best player in this deal. Now, his point totals last season weren't that great. But before I digress a bit here, he plays both wings. He's ambidextrous that way. He's 25. He's 6 foot, 183 pounds from Etobicoke, Ontario. Now, last season in 82 games, he had 8 goals and 29 points and was a +11. He's a great two-way player, really good defensively. He was a +11 last season. The season before that, he had 14 goals and 28 points, and his plus-minus was even. In season before that, 2016-17, he had 20 goals and 36 points and was a +3. That was his best season with Toronto. And the season before that, it was mostly with the AHL and the Marlies. He had a cup of coffee with Toronto, and that was about it. But I think it's very possible he can be a 20-goal scorer. Now, he does have a cap hit of $2.1 million for one more season. I think he can play as high as the first line, really. I mean, Edmonton wanted to trade for this guy so he could play with McDavid again, because I believe they played together in the OHL for a number of games. So this is Connor Brown's last season in OHL, and I think this was with Connor McDavid. Okay, in 68 games, he had 45 goals, 83 assists, and 128 points, and was a +44. Unbelievable. Yeah. So this guy, first line, fourth line, I think he'll really do well, maybe somewhere between the second and third as a two-way guy. And he's young enough. I think he can hit that 20-goal plateau again if he's played at least with another, offensive player. Definitely, it's not out of the realm. And if I was Ottawa, I would sign him after next season. I mean, we'll see what he does, but I'm pretty sure he'll be awesome for the Senators. Now, Michael Carcone, they got in a trade with Vancouver, I want to say, for Josh Levo. Now, he's a minor leaguer. He plays left wing and center. He's 5'10", 170 pounds from Ajax, Ontario. In his last season, he split between the Utica Comets and the Toronto Marlies of the AHL. In 62 games, he had 20 goals, and deep math, he had 44 points and was a -1. However, in the playoffs with the Marlies in 13 games, he had 6 goals, 4 assists for 10 points. Not bad at all. This guy might even be like a call-up to play, your fourth line. I think he's a fourth liner, and he seems to be a go-getter. So he's not a bad player, not a bad scorer for Ottawa there either. Now, there's some more talk on this front. There's been another signing, literally as I'm doing this video. The Ottawa Senators have just signed Ron Hainsey, a left shot defenseman with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who's been playing the right side for since he arrived, really, mostly alongside Morgan Rielly in the top pairing, and he's 38 years old. 38 years old. Now, the problem with him in Toronto is that Babcock kept putting him on the first line. Really, Hainsey needs to be like a third pairing guy, which he would really excel in. He's great for the young kids, very defensively responsible. And he was one of the top 5 guys in plus minus last season in the league. So this is a good, really good signing for him, for them. He's not on the list right now in Cat Friendly yet, but so he had what's some of his stats here? So he had 9 goals, 46 points in 161 games, regular season games, to go along with a plus 42 rating for Ron Hainsey. Now, they signed him to a $3.5 million deal. That's why the only reason the Leafs didn't re-sign him, because they're really strapped under the cap. And I think if Hainsey wanted to stay for 2 or less, they definitely would have signed him. But 3.5, that's a little too rich for them at this point in time. But Toronto has no defense. They have no right side defense, really. Because Dermott is who's a left shot, who ended the season playing the right side. He's injured with a shoulder injury up until about November. He won't recover till November. So they have Muzzin, they have Rielly, they have Calle Rosen, who's a left shot defenseman who they'll probably call up as well. And then Dermott, and then they have no Hainsey anymore, who was playing on the first line. They got no Zaitsev. Who are they going to play? Maybe they will bring CC in for at least 1 year. Now, there's more news as well. It also looks, for Ottawa Senators and the Leafs, it looks like Ottawa's also going to sign, I almost said Tyler Myers. Oh my God. Toronto's fourth line winger, Tyler Ennis. There you go. It was a Tyler. I knew it was a Tyler. He did really good with the Leafs last season. I'm trying to see if he's still on the board here. No, he isn't. But he was playing that fourth line, but he was excellent. He's sort of, and I don't say he's like Connor Brown, but he has the potential to score 20 goals. I think they should definitely have him bounce between the second and third line as well. He's fast. He's really, I don't know, is fidgety is the right word. He really throws guys off with the way his edges. Really, and he's kind of unpredictable offensively. He had a terrific year after coming over and signing a 1 year from the Minnesota Wild. He after they bought him out. He had a great year with Toronto. Ottawa's really going to like him too. He's exciting to watch. Now, the Toronto signing, where everyone thought he might be going to Ottawa, former Dallas Star and Ottawa Senator Jason Spezza, the centerman, has just signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So does it look like there's a number on his deal yet? I don't see anything. Signings. No, he's not up on the board yet. I'm pretty sure it's for a base $700,000 signing. So now they'll have Nick Shore and Jason Spezza. They have two centers who could play the fourth line center. Jason Spezza is a monster at the faceoff circle. He was either number 1 or number 2 for almost the whole last season on faceoffs. So Babcock's going to love him in that spot. But does this make Kadri expendable? Leafs really don't want to trade him. But if someone comes up and really blows them away with a deal, because a lot of teams have been calling about him, so we'll see what happens there. Because now they have Nick Shore and Spezza. I wouldn't say Spezza's a third line center or Nick Shore really, but in any case, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.